Hello, I'm Cher, the Shadow Walker, and I'm taking a look at cryptid sightings in the past 72 hours. It's been kind of quiet in certain areas, so I've added on an extra day. And I'm looking at the Pacific Northwest of the United States, and I'm also looking in Canada, British Columbia, the Northwest Territories, Yellowknife, and the Yukon. So I'm going to start with the Northwest Territories today. And a Bigfoot in the Yukon on the Klondike Highway near Pelly Crossing at 11:20 p.m. on April 6th. Two people, long-haul truck drivers. So both drivers reported a massive upright figure standing on a snowbank. It was described as having a whitish gray hair and being at least 8.5 feet tall. As the truck approached, it did not run, it simply leaned back into the shadows of the pines. A subsequent wood knock was reported by a nearby lodge owner roughly 30 minutes later, and it's reported to the Northern Yukon Sightings Log. And a dog man in Yellowknife in the outskirts in the Ingram Trail area at 1:30 a.m. on April 7th, one person encountered a large canine-headed humanoid standing near a remote equipment cache. The witness noticed a disturbing mimicking event. A soul reading like human whistling was heard coming from the creature's direction just before it dropped to all fours and sprinted into the brush. And it was reported to the digital scanners and the northwest corridor, sorry. And a hellhound in Yukon in Carcross Desert area at 3:10 a.m. on April 6th, two people encountered a black jet canine with bright orange shining eyes pacing the perimeter of a service yard. The security team noted that the creature's silhouette was impossibly sharp against the snow, and yet there was no physical footprints when the area was inspected shortly after. And the private security log is where they logged it into, and it was also flagged on the Hellhound file. So now I'm going to look at Alaska, and in Sistina, a hairy man or a Bigfoot. It's the Sistina Valley at 11:35 on April 6th. Two people, they were cabin owners, so two separate cabins. The witnesses said that a massive bipedal footstep circling their property, both properties. They described a creature as roughly 9 feet tall with broad, square shoulders, visible in the tree line. The encounter included a series of deep guttural whistles and the sound of large boulders being rolled down an embankment. A heavy wet dog odor was noted throughout the night, and it was reported to the Alaska Cryptid Research and to the National Sightings Log. And a dog man in Kletchkin in the Tonggrass National Forest, that one always gets me to say it, at 2:50 a.m. on April 7th. And it was one person witnessed a wolf-headed humanoid was reported pacing the perimeter of a coastal storage site. The witness described a disturbing shimmering effect around the creature, which moved with a silent gliding gait. It reportedly stood bipedal to peer over a 7-foot fence before dropping to all fours and sprinting into the dense growth of timbers at a speed that's estimated at 40 miles per hour. And it was on the coastal corridor scanner, so I picked that up. And then a hellhound in the outskirts of Wasilla in the Sistina Borg area, April 6th, 12:15 a.m. Two people, motorists, two separate vehicles. They encountered a black jet oversized canine sitting perfectly still on a remote section of the park highway. The witnesses noted the creature had persistent red eye shine and did not flash or blink as they slowed down. The creature did not move until the vehicle was within 20 feet of it, at which point it just vanished and blew away into a black mist. And they reported it to the local community log, and it was flagged on the Hellhound file. In Idaho in the last 72 hours, a Bigfoot in the Magruder corridor in the Bitterroot Wilderness area At 10:45 on April 6, two people, backcountry motorists, the witnesses reported a large dark figure standing on the road, just the side of the road at the shoulder. When the vehicle slowed down, the creature reportedly stepped into the brush and emitted a vibrating, metallic sounding howl that could be felt in the witness's chest. Fresh tracks were found nearby the following morning, measuring 16 inches with distinct metatarsal breaks. And boy, when they yell, because I've had that encounter in my driveway, you feel it right through you. And in Idaho, Saskatchewan Research Group is who they put that to. And in the Auwey County in Silver City at 1:45 a.m. on April 7th, one person witnessed a headed canine, humanoid, that's how they put it, was reported standing bipedally near the perimeter fence. The witness described the creature as having a shimmering black fur and eyes that glowed with persistent amber light. It reportedly mimicked the sounds of a nearby irrigation pump before dropping to all fours and sprinting into the dry wash at the estimated speed of 45 miles an hour. And they reported it to the Western Corridor Dogman File. And a hellhound in Perth Clearwater Area National Forest at 3:15 a.m. on April 6th, two people, forestry workers, encountered a massive jet black canine the size of an elk, pacing the edge of a timber harvest unit. The witnesses noticed the creature had blazing red eyes and appeared to be moving through the dense deadfall without making a single audible sound. It vanished when the high-intensity work lights were trained on its position, and it was reported to the internal forestry safety log, and it was flagged on the hellhound file. Now, a lot of times when they're seen like this in areas where there's trees, it's because they know there's actual medicines that are in that forest that's being logged, and it's been reported all over the world like that. So they're just trying to guard the forest and perhaps say, heads up to these people, you need this forest. In Montana, in the last 72 hours, we have a Bigfoot in the Cabinet Mountains Wilderness near Libby at 10:25 p.m. on April 6th. Two people, they were remote property owners, witnessed a series of massive wood knocks. That's what they said that they witnessed, they heard, and a deep chest vibrating roar. Upon checking the perimeter, they observed a tall, dark figure estimated at 8.5 feet crossing a snowy clearing. The figure moved with heavy, fluid lean, as was reported to have significant silver gray hair across the shoulders. And it was reported to the Montana Cryptid Research. Well, they're camouflaged, right? So their colors are going to change. And a dog man in Bitterroot Valley, the outskirts, 2:50 a.m. on April 7th, one person witnessed a canine-headed humanoid was reported standing bipedally near a pivot irrigation system. The witness noticed the creature's eyes had persistent amber orange glowing and did not require a light source to be visible. It reportedly dropped to all fours and crossed an open field at an estimated speed of 50 miles an hour when the security vehicle spotlight was engaged, and they reported it to the Digital Scanners Western Corridor and the Regional Sightings Dispatch. And Hellhound, Crow Reservation border area. At 12:15 on April 6, two people, motorists, reported a jet black canine the size of a grizzly sitting at the edge of a gravel access road. The witness stated the creature did not move as they drove past, but its eyes tracked the vehicle with a blurring red intensity. When they looked back in the rearview mirror, the road was empty, though no dust had been kicked up by the animal retreating, and they reported it to the local community log, and then it was flagged on the Hellhound file. So in BC, over the last 72 hours, in northern Vancouver Island near Malcolm's Island corridor, two people, they were local boaters, they witnessed a massive figure moving along the shoreline of a remote inlet. Witnesses described the silver backed creature standing at least 8.5 feet tall, that it appeared to be foraging near the water's edge. As they approached by water, the creature let out a howl, booming whistle, and retreated into the dense old growth timber. And they reported it to the North Coast Bigfoot file. Because a lot of times, like even with black bears and that, at certain times of the year, I've seen them when I was in the East Coast digging on the ocean. At the beaches, they're digging for clams and stuff. I think they need different minerals at different times of the year. And a dog man in the Pitt Lake area at 1:30 a.m., one person who was a caretaker of a property, the witness reported a dog man type wolf-headed creature at the Giant Narrows area. And then they had a disturbing occurrence where the witness heard their own name being called out in a flat, monotoned voice from the direction of the creature. The figure then dropped to all fours and crossed the rocky terrain with a fluid, predatory gait that the witness described as too fast for any natural animal. And they reported it to the BC Spirit file. And in the Okanagan Valley, near Vernon, the outskirts, at 3:10 a.m., two people, separate motorists, they both reported a jet black oversized canine, blazing yellow and red eyes, sitting perfectly still on the gravel service road. The witness noticed the creature appeared semi-transparent under the high beams and did not move as the vehicle reversed. Instead, it simply folded itself and vanished as if it were a collapsing shadow. And they reported it to the local security log and the Hellhound file. So in Washington state, over the last 72 hours, there was a Bigfoot in the Okanagan Wenatchee National Forest near Blewett Pass, and that was at 8:20 p.m. on April 6th, and it was three people, separate people. There was a motorist on the road that witnessed it, and then some campers. So multiple witnesses reported a massive figure, estimated between 8 and 9 feet tall, crossing Highway 97 near the summit. One driver described the creature as having shaggy, charcoal-colored hair and moving with a heavy, fluid gait that didn't stop for the high beams. A separate party at a nearby campsite reported 3 successful booming wood knocks, followed by a high-pitched vocal whoop shortly after the crossing. And it was reported to the Washington State Sasquatch Research. And a dog man in Pierce County, the outskirts of Cabanero, the entrance to Mount Rainier. At 1:10 a.m. on April 7th, one person who was a security guard witnessed a wolf-like headed humanoid type creature crouched on top of an old logging equipment shed. They described the creature as having unnatural digital grade legs and glowing amber eyes. When the security spotlights hit the creature, it did not flee immediately. It reportedly barbed its teeth and emitted a low frequency growl at the witness. And the witness felt that physical vibration. And then it leaped, they said, over 20 feet into a dense timber. And it was reported to the Cascade Corridor Dogman file. And a hellhound in the Cediro Woolley area at 3:45 a.m. I hope I said that right, at April 5th. And it was 2 separate delivery drivers. And they saw a jet black canine, half the size of a calf, standing in the middle of a fog covered rural road. The witness noted the creature had burning red eyes that shone, and it did not reflect the fog in its own silhouette. It did not reflect the one. Appearing as a hole in the mist. And as they approached, the creature simply turned 180 degrees and dissolved into the fog without making a sound or leaving a print. I had to reread that for a minute, sorry. And they flagged it on the Hellhound file, and it was on the local community sightings. That's it for that area. Thank you so much for listening. I greatly appreciate your time. Have a wonderful day. And remember, if you're out there hiking, don't hike alone. Go in groups of 4, and don't forget your GPS and let somebody know. Thank you. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.